Well, Razorback fans, some pretty big news of another player entering into the transfer portal. Happened to be the offensive MVP, Dazmin James from the Liberty Bowl. What does this mean? Well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks THV 11 edition on a Tuesday.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors, and I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. As a little bit of significant news happening today with a new transfer, I guess subtraction at this point, for Arkansas Razorback football. So let's react to it and talk about it as we welcome in here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Of course, it is Nick Lutrell of THV 11 down there in the Central Arkansas area. And Nick, appreciate you joining us as always. And I guess we can just go ahead and jump right into it before we talk some other football things. But your reaction to Dazmin James, who had such a great game against Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl, entering his name reportedly into the transfer portal.
Yeah, to be honest, John, I wasn't super surprised. When a friend texted me that this had happened, I was like, man, I should tweet out my thoughts more, because I was thinking kind of after the bowl game, I was like, he has a good game. He hasn't played this entire season. Someone out there is probably going to be like, hey, you want to, come play for us? We'll give you this amount of money. And maybe that's, I don't know if that's exactly how it went down, but maybe, he kind of found out he's not going to be, that was kind of his one-hit wonder, and maybe he's not going to be that go-to guy for the Hogs next season, since they're bringing in 3 pretty good wide receivers from the transfer portal, and he's going to want to go somewhere else to play, which I get. I think that's more of the transfer portal working how it should, where he wants to go somewhere and get more playing time and use kind of the hype he has around his name right now. So I mean, I'd be surprised if he went to Ole Miss or something like that. I mean, at this point, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I think I still would be. I think I would see him going to maybe a little bit of a smaller school and just trying to get more playing time. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, which I could totally see. I mean, we'll never know, or maybe we will never know the exact reason, but I could also see it, at least maybe the first thing I thought of was just knowing the climate and how transfer portals work with NIL. I see a wide receiver that was featured on ESPN and had some really big plays in some big game, and went viral, had a SportsCenter top 10 play, talked about his speed and everything. And when that happened, I could totally see whoever represents him, or maybe himself, being like, man, I can go, I better strike while the iron's hot. I better go and get my money, or get the most I can out of this transfer portal, dives into it and tries to make something out of it, tries to make something work, to see what their value is. And, here's the deal. There's multiple reasons why people enter into the transfer portal. But it's also something to where someone like him, same people even talked about this, about people entering in the right way. It wouldn't surprise me at all, assuming he did it the right way, that if he's back at Arkansas, it just could be one of those things where, whether you like it or not, which I know people don't, and you don't want to see this, but it's also like, how do you know how much value you truly have, of how much people are willing to pay for you, if you're not in a position to where you start hearing how much people want to pay you? Again, you could hate it, but it just seems like it's the current climate right now.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and it almost reminds me of after Braylon Russell had that really good game against Tennessee, tweeted out, "I'm looking for a new agent to try to get more money," or whatever, for whatever reason he was doing that. I think if Braylon Russell had his breakout game in the Liberty Bowl, and the whole Braylon Russell thing is a whole nother story in of itself. But if let's just say he had that breakout game instead of Tennessee, he has it in the Liberty Bowl, that kind of seems very similar. Younger guy wanting to get more opportunities. And I think you're right. I think this could be again, depending on if he went out the right way, according to Coach Pittman, this could be an opportunity where he tries his best in the transfer portal, and maybe he doesn't get out of it what he thinks, and then he decides to come back and be a wide receiver, kind of coming off the bench, or a backup wide receiver for the Hogs next season.
So what do you think about, just after the Liberty Bowl, which Arkansas performed well and got the victory, goes 7-6, so they do end up with a winning record, but knowing how many subtractions they've had in the transfer portal, who they've gotten, and I know that they're continuing to work on who they can put into place, but just what's a confidence level like right now for Arkansas after kind of now having a finality of the season and still knowing that there's work to be done, but where it stands right now, just what's the confidence level about Arkansas not only being a team that people want to improve from this past season to next season, although it'll be difficult, but also just the current vibe and feeling of everything now that the season come to an end?
Well, certainly a lot more optimistic than it was when the transfer portal still opened and when the season ended. So I think it's headed in the right direction. I think we'll know a little bit more for certain over probably the next week since the portal is open for another day or two. I think it's only 5 days after the bowl games end for the Razorbacks when it's open. So I think we'll know a little bit more in the next few days. But and then it'll be really quiet after that, and it'll be hard to really decipher until we get some in-person footage and to see what these transfers actually look like when they're playing spring ball with the Hogs. But I think looking at it right now, I think Pittman has done what he needed to do and what he wants to do. Now, whether these guys coming in are going to be better than the team he had last year, it's just so hard to tell. Because you might have a guy who like the Oregon offensive lineman who didn't really play this past year, but he was really highly recruited out of high school. So then it just kind of just depends. Like he might be a 4-star coming out of high school, but maybe he's a 3-star on the On3 transfer portal ranking. So it's just kind of hard with those. And like a guy like Courtney Crutchfield was a 4-star out of high school, and now he's like a 3-star transfer. So it's just hard on these guys who were so good in high school that didn't get a lot of playing time for their respective teams this past year. And now we have to wait a whole nother year to see them play for a whole different team and see if they're going to live up to the hype that they were supposed to the year before. But kind of back to your question, I think there is optimism. I think they're headed in the right direction. I think he got players that he needed to get. He got a couple offensive linemen. I think he still wants to get one more. And honestly, I know it was against a Big 12 defensive lineman. I'm sure they had some of their starters out in the bowl game, but the O-line looks pretty decent in their bowl game too. So again, you can't put too much stock into that, but some of those younger guys playing on the offensive line in that Liberty Bowl give you a little bit of confidence heading into next season. I don't know if those are going to be the starters, but they could be guys that are battling for the stars with some of those transfer guys coming in.
We'll talk a little bit about the basketball team as they get started with SEC play after getting a nice little win to end their non-conference slate. We'll do that here in a second, so stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I'm going to tell you about our friends over at Rocket Money. We know that a lot of people have subscriptions. I know I've been included in this, that we don't even realize we're paying for it each and every month, but we forget about it. It's just something that goes by the wayside. Well, here's the deal. With Rocket Money, they're going to help you out in getting easy to track them all down and also be able to cancel them if they're unwanted. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel the unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. I know that everyone has these. And with the new year, you want to be saving money. This is a great way to start. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions to reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Continue our conversation with Nick Lutrell of THV 11 here on a THV 11 Tuesday on Locked On Razorbacks. All right, Nick, so let's look to the basketball side of things. Arkansas, we'll talk about the game itself. Arkansas last night got a nice win in the final non-conference slate. First half, just it seems like it's a par of the course. They play rough. They have moments where it's just doesn't look good, doesn't look like a team that's really that quality. And it was a 3-point game at halftime, but then Arkansas ends up winning by 30 in the second half. But just what do you make of that particular aspect of this team to where it's usually not, first half great and second half great. It's pretty consistently of just first half, meh, second half, they come out, find a way to win. Why is that?
I honestly don't know. I guess it's just maybe some of the younger guys still getting the experience, maybe some nerves to start the game. I mean, we have seen a few of the games where they've done really well from start to finish. I think but it's against opponents that weren't very good. and the non-conference, like like a UCA that they played earlier in the year, where they started out good and they finished all the way through. But for the most part, yeah, you're right. They've been very slow starts to begin the game, and then kind of erupted in the second half. And it's worked against some of the again, the smaller teams that they've played in the non-conference. But man, conference play starting, the historically good SEC, maybe the best the SEC has ever been, heading into conference play when they all play each other. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. And especially on the road, they've had some of these, home games where they can benefit from starting a little bit slow. And then, I know the crowd hasn't been amazing, but the crowd getting behind them a little bit in the second half to come back and win the game, or maybe not come back, but to extend that lead and to grow it and to win by 30 when they were only up by 3 at the half, that kind of thing. So I don't know for sure, but I hope it changes. And if it doesn't change, and if they keep winning games, that's fine. Whatever you got to do to win games, even if it's starting a little bit slow, if you can have a second half where you outscore opponents by 27, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty good thing. Also, knowing that their first game in SEC play happens to be the number one team in the country, Tennessee, and it happens to be on the road. It's a place that Arkansas has not won very often. Not many people have won. But just knowing what we've seen so far with Arkansas, which I think everybody understands, they are getting better. One of the issues is they just can't stay or get healthy. Nelly Davis has to sit out last night, and so they're just trying to get to that point. But assuming that Nelly Davis is ready to go against Tennessee, is this a game that Arkansas can win? Will they win? Or is Tennessee just a little further along to where it's going to be a problem for Arkansas to even find a way to win in a hostile environment like that?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't watched Tennessee this year, but obviously I know that they're undefeated and they've probably played a couple pretty good Power Four teams this season. But it would be pretty. I'd be a little surprised for them to go on the road, and especially their first conference game, and that place is going to be packed because they're the number one team in the country, because Arkansas is coming to town, and because it's Coach Cal, and the first time all the fans are going to get to see Coach Cal wearing Arkansas, Razorback red. So there's a lot of elements that really builds this game up. It's on ESPN, all these things that make this game pretty big and to open SEC play. And it would surprise me for Arkansas to win, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. And I think it's there's a small percentage, but I think it could happen because we've seen Arkansas has some very talented players on this team. I don't know if they're ready at this point in the season to pull off this kind of upset, but if they played their best game and Tennessee played a little bit lower than their best game, it's not like Tennessee doesn't need to have an awful game and Arkansas doesn't need to shoot like 80% from beyond the arc. I think if Tennessee plays a little bit less than what they've been playing, Arkansas plays a little bit better than what they have been playing, and that's saying something, I think that there's a chance that Arkansas could upset them.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not going to predict it. I'm not going to bet on it, but they are good enough to be able to do that. And I guess the question becomes that if Arkansas, especially going up against tough opponents in this conference, which is going to be often, but on the road, like what is the key, or who is the key in that type of success? Because we've seen a bunch of different players have level of success. We've seen guys like Boogie Fland be the best player on the court. We've seen Adu Thiero be the best player on the court. We've seen that happen. Like, who's got to be the consistent key to all of it in order for Arkansas to have that consistent success in the SEC?
I think it probably starts with Boogie Fland. He's more and more becoming himself and cementing himself as, if not a first round pick, then a lottery pick, somewhere around there. Like he has, we saw it last night. Again, not really in the first half. I think he had 1 point at halftime, then he just explodes in the second half. So I'd like to see more consistency out of him. And not just him being able to score the ball, because we know he can do that, but be able to facilitate, because Arkansas is at their best when Boogie Fland is also facilitating the ball and scoring the ball. They're attacking in transition. They're getting turnovers on the defensive side, and that's leading to fast break points on the other end. That's what Arkansas is, an explosive team with a lot of playmakers. And when they can create those turnovers on the defensive end, with it be a Boogie Fland or a Billy Richmond is another guy that is up there with, doesn't get as many minutes as the other exciting players on this Arkansas team. But in the minutes that he does have and bring on the court, he brings a lot of intensity, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So that's two guys that come to mind. They're both freshmen too. So it's still taking a little bit for them to kind of figure out their place in this team, especially with the injuries happening. But those are two guys that come to mind. If those guys can be consistent, and Billy Richmond being one of them, a kind of a dark horse to be a star on this team, I think this could be a really powerful team in the SEC.
Well, last one before I let you get out of here, Nick. Obviously, football kind of comes winding down. Basketball's up in full force, but THP 11, it's ongoing no matter what. So, what do you guys got planned for the new year that you're going to be welcoming in here in 2025, and what's going to be going on over there?
Yeah, so I'm actually excited for our broadcast tonight because I'm doing a little year in review of kind of the top 5 moments from Razorback athletics in the past year, which I'm sure what every Razorback media outlet is doing right now. But I'm looking forward to that because there's not a ton of Arkansas sports going on today and tomorrow in our area or in the state or anything. So looking forward to taking a look back at, it wasn't there was definitely some ups and downs to the Razorback athletic year in 2024, but there was a lot of fun moments too. So I'm excited to show my audience the top 5 moments that I've picked out tonight.
Well, it's going to be great no matter what it is because sports and Razorbacks, it's year round, 24/7, 365. So it's going to be awesome. But either way, we appreciate you as always joining us, Nick, and appreciate each and every one of you listening in here to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. And we'll have a great set of great podcasts continuing on through the 2025 year. Everybody stay safe tonight. Celebrate the new year in style. And we'll see you next year. For Nick Lutrell, I'm John Nabors. Same sports show, same sports podcast. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.